it's allowed me to, like, from their 45 franchise into this, it's allowed me to understand, because I was coming from a Premier League team, I was a theoretical Premier League player. If all of a sudden you don't talk to your staff, or you don't understand where they're at, what their good bits are, what their bad bits are, how we can improve. Fortunately, retirement starts at like 18. That plan starts at 18. No young footballer ever wants to hear that at all. And unfortunately, but that's where it starts.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in today. This week's episode is brought to you in conjunction with Upskilled and their mini MBA. If you want to get the skills and knowledge to help move you forward without all of the big expense, then this mini MBA with Upskilled is the right way to go. Follow the link in the show notes and you can get $500 off.
Well, look, Simon, as I was saying, welcome to the show. Good to have you joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good. Looking forward to chatting a bit more about your career, but then also certainly how you've tackled the life after the game as well. Always fascinating to get different perspectives, and definitely looking forward to yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Good, man. Well, look, for everyone who's listening and watching today, please just give us a summary, super quick summary of sort of who you are and what you're up to nowadays.
So, and obviously former professional footballer, 17 years, over 500 games, across all levels of the game, all the way up to international football, and finished my time over in Australia, where you are, with Western Sydney Wanderers. Retired through COVID, set up a gym business, and that's what I'm doing now.
Nice. And how's gym business going? How's that going in England?
Stress. Yeah. Do you know what? I started off, when I finished, I opened up an F45.
Yeah.
So obviously Australian born, Australian F45. And then we just closed that and then reopened up our own one.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
we've gone through a transition of that into a new one.
Right. Okay. So we've got a couple of jumps that we'll have to go through. What made you go into the gym industry?
Well, I wanted to go into football coaching. So that was the plan after football. I did all my badges. Then through COVID, obviously no one was allowing anybody to come in and watch training, take sessions, because of all the bubbles that everyone was in. So I kind of sat out of doing anything for about 18 months, and then realized that very quickly you're going to have to start earning some money, like everybody. And then I did F45 while I was in Australia a few times, and loved it, loved the coaching style, loved the way of training, how it really sort of got everybody together.
Yeah.
I'm big on that. That would have been my football coaching style, bringing everybody together. So when I did a few F45 sessions, and obviously I was new, I didn't know anybody, and I was integrated quite nicely, met some new people, etc. So I thought, can I open one up where I am here in Southend? The closest one that we have is about an hour and a half away. So I thought to myself, actually, it's a really good opportunity for us to, with a big catchment area of people. And for about a year to 15 months or so, it was going really well. And then all of a sudden we just started hitting a big dive. People started getting back into the office. So all of a sudden people stop coming to sessions, which inevitably means that they start cancelling memberships.
Yeah.
and then we have to pivot and do something else.
Yeah. Which in itself, I know what it means. I know how it feels from both being someone who was at the gym, then stopped going to the gym, training by myself, now doing anything I can outside, basically. But the impact, having worked with individuals in that fitness industry, has been, like you said, it's quite immense, and sort of having to, like you said, pivot business model, and become something you have to adapt to. And how have you found that adaptation then? Has it felt completely new?
Oh, honestly, it's when I was at school, I didn't know anything other than football. So I didn't really want to do school. I knew in my own self that football was going to be the only thing I wanted to do. So when I was playing, I think every footballer probably thinks you're going to last forever. But then as soon as you get to sort of like 28, 29, 30, and you start realizing it's not going to last forever, you start having to think about next steps. So I did all my badges, but then when that didn't happen, while I was in Australia, actually, I did a master's in business and football management. So I kind of took that step to try and think to myself, okay, if coaching is not going to be the thing, then something else behind the scenes might be within football. Director of football, anything that brings players to the football club and gives them a big opportunity to be successful.
Yeah.
Academy manager, etc. Right, that kind of thing. When that didn't happen, I was like, right, I need to now understand how to run a business, because I've never run a business before.
That's right.
So I had to learn all about profit and loss. I had to learn about dealing with marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns, leading a team, whether it's cleaners, whether it's head trainer, whether it's, bottom lines that are honestly like all the things that I've never ever thought I'd have to learn. I had to learn in an instant.
And so how did you learn them then? Did you go on a course?
By failing.
By failing.
Yeah, I think it was the best, the most expensive way to learn. But it's allowed me to, from their 45 franchise into this, it's allowed me to understand not to sort of hold off on making decisions. Make decisions what's best for the business, because ultimately the business is the one thing that's going to help people be successful. It's not going to be, if we put 20 sessions on a day, for example, but only one person comes in, we might as well put one session on. So it's understanding all of those sort of fine details of what's best for the business compared to what's best for everything else.
Yeah. It's funny you say it. I mean, hearing it, and I'm sure you say it and it's obvious, right? But yeah, it doesn't feel like that when you're in the moment. It doesn't feel like that. And
no, and you're always scared about making decisions.
Yeah.
Especially in in the gym industry or any subscription-based industry. If you make a decision that affects people's ability to be able to come or use your facility, for example, what's the next thing that's going to happen? They're going to leave. So you're kind of weighing up every option so that you try not to lose anybody, but you try and give them the exact same experience that they were having, but just maybe there's no point, like I said, no point putting 20 on when one will do.
Yeah, because it's a different prioritization perhaps that comes in, because as a footballer, as an elite athlete, you made a million decisions a game. You made so many decisions, but I suppose I'm thinking the decisions you made were probably already with what's best for the team that you're playing on, at the detriment of anybody else who was thinking. And is it then, when you're starting to run a business, suddenly you've got customers to think of, you've got employees to think of, you've got other investors maybe to think of, and all these other people. Whereas as a player, it's like, well, where's the ball? How are we getting into the back of the net? And we're all on that same team, right?
Yeah, like as much as football is a team sport, is quite individualized.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether you decide to run forward or run back, that's an individual decision.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, in business, you make one decision that impacts a lot of people.
Yeah.
Hi, I want to take this moment to thank Upskilled and their mini MBA for sponsoring this week's session. One of the great things about their mini MBA is it allows you to gain the skills and knowledge to help propel you that little bit further forward. It gets you understanding the vocabulary in the room, and also gives you some of those skills to navigate the corporate career, the government career, or indeed stepping into not-for-profit. So big thanks for Upskilled and the mini MBA for sponsoring this week. And hey, check it out. Link in the show notes. You can get $500 off.
Yeah. Well, I guess, like you say, in football, but as a player, it's an individual decision, but it is part of a connected team. That it is almost clear, because if we're all defending and you suddenly run up the field, it's like, mate, what are you doing? So you're going against the team. So I guess there's a bit that still keeps us together. Where does that disappear then when we enter into the world of business?
I would say it does, only on the basis of like one decision in business can have so much repercussions, at least because if you're the owner of that business, especially, the decision that I make as a owner of a business, like I say, could have detrimental effects to loads of people. Whereas I think in football, if I make one decision to run further forward, I've got 10 other people that can kind of help me and kind of sort that bad decision out. Whereas if in business, I make a bad decision and we lose 20 members, that's a bad decision on my point. I've got to then try and find 20 members to replace them.
Yes. Yeah. Listen, I'm keen to step into a little bit more about what you're doing and sort of some of those decisions that you've had to make. But let's just get a bit of that backstory. Like you say, a tremendous career, 17 years, over 500 appearances, like you say, at all levels. I think you were saying this right at the start as well, which I think is great. You touched on it earlier. You said you always felt that you were going to be a footballer. So as you were growing up, how important was sport to you?
Yeah, huge. I mean, I've got an older brother. So for me and him, it was always playing football in the back garden. Obviously playing with football with his mates. So it kind of, you always hear these stories of you've got an older brother, and it toughens you up a little bit, right? And I feel like I had a little bit of that as well. So I always played in my Sunday league team. I would have played up at a level.
Yeah.
So that always, again, toughened me up a bit. And then I think I feel like I got a bit lucky at the start. The Sunday league team that I was playing with had Reading's under 19 managers' twin sons. And then we got asked to go and do a training session at the Reading Centre of Excellence at the time.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 9, 10.
Yeah.
And then basically never left until I was like 20.
Yeah.
So, I was there all the way through, from Centre of Excellence into academy level, apprenticeships into the first team. Mm. I've only got manager to go, and I complete the set.
Yeah, it's not too late. It's definitely not too late.
I know. Yeah. I just sat there, manager as well.
Yeah, right. Okay, good timing. So coming through that whole system, and we talk about, actually, it's funny. Me being in Australia, I look at academies and teams here, and I don't know. For me, and it's probably just me being an old man, but it's as if that they switch clubs every year, every 2 years, right? And they just keep going through. Now, you didn't have that experience, certainly in the earlier years, where and that loyalty. Well, my question is it a loyalty that you felt you had, or is it more following or doing what's in front of you?
Well, because I was a local lad, so I was born in Reading, I wanted to make it at Reading Football Club. So that was my sort of goal and dream. It happened to an extent in the first time I was at Reading, because I full circled it and came back. So I made, I think it was 5 or 7 appearances for the first team, but all as sub appearances. I never was able to make it into the first team. Reading got promoted to the Premier League. They had 106 points. So I had to go and forge a career for myself. So I kind of like half completed it at the start, but had to go and forge a career for myself. So I had to drop down a level, and then, try and do as well as possible, go on a career path. And then hopefully one day I was going to come back. And then that did end up happening. And then the first time I started a game for Reading was when I did the full circle. Yeah. So it was really strange. It took me nearly 10 years to make my first start for Reading after becoming a pro.
It's quite magical.
So I had to do a full loop.
Well, do you know, it's interesting. Dr. Chris Platts, who was on a month or so ago, and he does talk about, the likes of yourself. And as I was sort of talking about you and, about you coming onto the show, and I was looking back at your career, and you've kind of followed what he prescribes as one of the paths, or one of the bits, is that as you hit that sort of 20 years old, you need to play with men. You need to get in the first 11. And if that means leaving and dropping down a division and earning your stripes, plying your trade, then that's what you did. And, you've gone ahead and you've done that. How did it feel? How did that feel, if you can look back or think back at the time, sort of leaving and starting again to try and sort of forge your own name?
Yeah, well, I remember it really clearly. There was 2 things that really stuck out to me. So first of all, I went out on loan. I went to Brentford on a loan. I went to Northampton on a loan. Scored my first goal at Northampton because I hadn't scored at Brentford. I was kind of questioning, am I good enough to score goals at the levels? And then I went to Swindon the following year and scored like 17 or 18 goals in the season. So I realised to myself that I could score goals at that level. But I always remember there was 2 things that stuck in my mind. One, I was coming from a Premier League team. So I was coming from Reading, who was in a Premier League team at the time. And it was always said to me that because I was coming from a Premier League team, I was a theoretical Premier League player or part of the Premier League team. So my standards have got to be Premier League
next level.
Standard.
Yeah.
My touch has got to be good. My attitude's got to be good. My timekeeping's got to be good. All of these have got to be Premier League standard. So that was always one thing I took in every day training. Hate people that are late. Hate people that generally don't care too much. And that doesn't really sit well with me. So I always had that. And it was always the one thing that my dad always used to say to me is like, you have to be the best player at that team. But that's got to be your mindset. it doesn't matter if somebody's coming from Man City or someone's coming from Spurs or someone like you have to be that one person. The ball's got to come to you. It's got, and that always sort of stuck in my mind.
Yeah. And do you know, because you that having to be the best, does that mean, one of the bits I always look at or think about is who sets your standard then? Are you setting your standard, by what you see and what you believe excellent is? Or are you looking at others and that player and thinking, all right, well, whatever that is, that's what I need to do?
Well, I think when you go on loan, I think there's two reasons why you go on loan. One, the football club that you're going to need someone. They've had injuries or they're struggling at the bottom of the league or whatever. So they need someone. So you have to then go to there and be the standard of the club that you've come from.
Yeah.
And then there's also that, which is the standard of the club you've come from. So you can look at the club you're going to and be like, well, there's obviously a reason that you were either bottom of the league or there's always a reason that I'm coming in. So I have to lift the standard of everybody else around me. I mean, I was 18, 19 at the time. So like I had no authority to be able to be going into a dressing room full of like 26, 27-year-old like men going, buck up your ideas, lads. Come on, let's start winning some games of football. Like, I think it was how I conducted myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. So it's you. It's you kind of are setting your standard. You might learn what it is because you're in an environment of excellence at Reading in Premier League. You know what good looks like. But then it actually takes a bit of guts to keep that going, doesn't it? Because like you say, you're going into a changing room of men, of experienced individuals who are, again, seasoned pros. And you need to demonstrate what good looks like, and you need to be able to do that without fear that they're then going to, I don't know, try and beat the crap out of you.
Well, yeah, generally, like it's my first loan spell at Northampton. Like you had people like Sean Dyche in there, right? He was a centre half at Northampton when I went there, and I remember like first couple of days of training, like he would take nothing out of anybody. Like, if you didn't run, he would tell you didn't run. And you're thinking to yourself, like, you're this cocky 18-year-old kid with no background whatsoever, and you've got to set a standard that I want to live up to. And it's very easy to come into a dressing room and say, oh, I can do so much. Like I'm the best player, but unless you show it,
mm-hmm.
The words don't mean anything.
Yeah, that's right. So for you in your career, you continue to move on the up. You continue to push. Like we say, there's it's 500 games, appearances that we that you've got to your name. What do you see as a sort of a defining moment for you from a playing perspective that really, did you ever feel that there was, boom, I've hit this trajectory and things really started ticking on for you?
Yeah, it was probably the next season on after that. I signed for Swindon permanently, so I left Reading. So I went away from the comfort of being in the Premier League club, and and I was fighting for 3 points every week. And I just, I just thought to myself, I'm going to need to actually like really knuckle down on this. I don't want to be in League One all my life. I want to make a career out of it. And the only way to do that is by scoring goals, really. And that following season, I think I hit 32 goals. So I was like joint top goal scorer of all 4 leagues. And it was forever. Every week I was being touted about going somewhere in January, going somewhere in the summer. And then I think that's where it comes down to sort of like your mental strength, really, because it's very easy to get carried away with that sort of stuff. But I had a really good relationship with the owner and the chairman of Swindon at the time. And we were really honest with each other. We were always in constant communication about, like, January, he was like, you're not going to leave anywhere. He said, like, we want to get you to the summer. And then when you get to the summer, like, you're going to have a plethora of clubs available to you. So I was like, fine, no problem. I still had bids coming on in January, but he was like, nah, not interested. And I just carried on. And like I say, I had a really, really good season. And then, it was basically pick and choose your club at the end of it.
How did you?
Which was great.
Yeah. Well, it was. So before I just want to ask how you made that decision, or what decisions you made. As you're kicking through that season, where did you think your career could take you? What was that wildest dream that you had?
Well, I always thought I could play in the Premier League. I always thought like that was always the goal. The goal was always to get there. I think any young kid has to have that aspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just if it ever becomes a reality is that's, I think, the issue.
Yeah, I know that.
So I think from my perspective, after scoring so many goals, the next decision I had to make was which is the best club for me and my progression, compared to which is the biggest football club, or which is the club that's going to, which I'm going to earn more money at.
Yeah. And so as that season came to an end, came to a close, is that what was running through your mind?
Well, I think it just, you get put by your agent, you get put all the scenarios on the table. Like I say, I was constantly in chat with the chairman. So he was very honest. If a bid came in, he'd pick up the phone and be like, Simon, we've just had a bid from whoever. He said, like, it's not enough. But if you tell me that you don't want to go there, then we'll just say, it's not the club for him. He doesn't want to go there. So we did. It took all of the summer, because the clubs funny enough, the clubs that were interested in me were all out of managers. So they all sacked their managers. And then a quick story. So Tony Mowbray, who was West Brom's manager, the season they got relegated. So I had chief scout, director of football, assistant manager, then the manager, all come down to watch me at Swindon. All of them said yes, bar Tony Mowbray. They all wanted to take me. Said, yeah, it'd be a great addition to the football club. But he was the one person who said no. So in that summer, I had West Brom, who had just sacked Tony Mowbray. I had Newcastle, who had Alan Shearer in charge as they got relegated from the Premier League. And I had Celtic, and they were the three main clubs. Like Leicester were in there as well, but they didn't really progress in the talks and stuff. Tony Mowbray gets a sack from West Brom. He then becomes the manager of Celtic. So then Celtic comes off the table because Tony Mowbray doesn't want me at West Brom. So I'm out of there. And then I have to weigh up which is the best option between West Brom and Newcastle. And obviously neither of those had appointed a manager yet. So, and then you're in a bit of a limbo situation in that situation, because even if it's the director of football that wants you to bring you in, the new manager might not want you. So you kind of have to get an understanding who the manager is going to be, what they think of you. Do they want to bring you in or not? Or is it a hierarchy appointment and then you could easily just sit in the under 21s all for long. So I had a lot going on in that summer. So it took a long time. And then it wasn't until I think the second or third week of pre-season did I actually make my decision. And West Brom appointed their manager first, and I ended up going there.
Yeah. And the rest is history, as they say. But it is, but it is an interesting. It's that dilemma, isn't it? You know, everything you've just gone through there, making your decisions based on who the manager is really important. But then you also want the right club structure that comes with it. And you know, to be honest, it's the same outside of sport, where you might like the organisation, but who's your manager? Because that manager will drive your culture. They'll tell you every day whether or not you're going to enjoy it and whether or not you're going to be successful.
And I to be honest, I bring that here. You know, I try and make a smile for every single person that comes in. You know, give them the best that I've got for the day, so they can give the best that they've got.
Yeah.
Because if I walk in here and 20 people come and do a session with me, and I'm like looking miserable and not happy, and then I go, guys, this is what you're doing today. This is the timings. I see an hour. Like that's not going to really motivate anybody, and they're not going to get a great session. So I feel like it is your environment will dictate how many people come. But for me, how many people come in, but how well your staff and how well your players do in football terms.
And well, look, across your career, you went into many clubs, many cultures then that were that would have been different for various reasons. So when you look back at the clubs you played in and you think about their cultures, which ones, was there any essence where you could see it in many that really resonated with you to make you feel, that's the kind of culture that, I want to create when I'm leading a team or leading a business?
Yeah, I think so. Roy Hodgson was brilliant at creating a team. Like, we spoke about if individual decisions, if I decide to run forward, that has repercussions for the team. Roy was very much like, you don't run forward. That's it. Like, you stay where you are. Like, this is this structure that we play from, and that's it. And it was great for exactly what we needed at that time. And that kind of resonates with me, because I feel like if we stick to a structure and we continue to build and we continue to get better, and we, like in my business now, bring more people in, we can do more things, and we can make it better all the time. Whereas I think if you want to shoot for the stars straight away, that doesn't necessarily always bring success.
Yeah.
You can win 6-5 every game. It's great for an entertainment sport, but the heart will give up surely halfway through the season.
That's right.
So I think from his perspective, and I think from my coaching style, if I was going to go into football, even though I was a striker, from a defensive perspective, I understand what I didn't like to play against.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand like how hard defenders used to make it for me. So I would expect my defenders to make it hard for every centre forward.
Right. Yeah.
And then as a striker, not you kind of get free will, but I think in the final third of the play, yes, you should have free will. And as long as sounds really weird, as long as there's a structure to that free will, like you have to create the runs. The runs have to be good,
mm-hmm.
but when you make them is up to you, and what pass you decide to make is up to you. Like, yes. I'm not going to tell you how you do this. Like, that's got to be up to you. So I feel like that would have been my style.
Yes.
And that goes for the same in here.
And look, I mean, it's the creativity with borders, sort of could be innovation. It sort of moves you forward, and you know when that creativity can happen and how it'll deliver value. And I guess that creativity without it, just go and run around. Like I said, there's no structure. No one knows what one another's doing. So the team can't come together.
No, not at all. But I think in today's football, for sure, it's all about man management, and that's business as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If all of a sudden you don't talk to your staff, or you don't understand where they're at, what their good bits are, what their bad bits are, how we can improve, like they'll look for the next job very quickly, and then they'll leave you as quick as they came in.
And how much of that do you think you brought with you from football?
Well, I think it's a bit of a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Go on.
Because of some of the sessions I put on, I look at some and I think, oh, that's a really good session. Like, some of the movements are great, and I expect people to be able to do it. Sure. But then when people can't do it, I'm like, what are you doing? I can't believe you can't do that movement. So, but then you have to understand, and that's no different in football, and that's no different in business. Like, you have to understand people's strengths and weaknesses.
Mm. Yes, meet them where they are, and then bring them along. I guess there's that coaching aspect in you. Well, it must come out there as well.
Well, go back to the first point that we were making. For me, I thought that I had to be the best player, so I had to bring the standard up, right? So same now, my standard is that you have to be able to do this exercise. If you can't do it, right, how do I make you do this exercise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like it's exactly the same now.
Yeah. Look, you mentioned as you sort of hit towards the end of your career, you started doing your masters, right? So did you maintain sort of an academic progress whilst you were a player and whilst you were sort of, moving through the clubs and through the ranks?
I only did my I did my B license coaching when I was 28. I did my A license, I think, when I was 30. And then I did my masters while I was out in Australia.
Yeah.
I actually only did my masters purely and simply because I went out there, because I was away from everything that I knew was going to be a distraction. Yeah. So I had nothing but time on my hands. So I might as well make use of that time.
I tell you what, that's a great advert for anyone thinking of playing overseas, or at least coming over to Oz. Come over towards the end of your career and do a masters.
Learn and learn.
Yeah.
Just continue learning.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think from my perspective, I came out there on my own. I had, some intentions to stay, depending on the situations and how they unfolded. And I thought a master's, especially in football business, because I wanted to be a coach, I thought that was going to help me. And if I stayed out in Oz for the last, I don't know, for 10 years or so, I could have made my way through the system. Whether that been an academy coach, into an assistant manager's coach, into a manager, whether that took me into a director of football's role or whatever. And I've seen the growth of the A-League and how much they want to try and follow European football in their structures, but just don't have the infrastructure to follow it.
That's right.
So in my head, I had, how can I help it grow to the European standard of football? But it just circumstances changed and I ended up coming home.
Well, look, you had to, throughout your career, change clubs, change environments, shift cultures, and keep going, right? What helped you in fact, before I say what helped you to keep going, did you, when you had to come back through COVID, retiring through that, What was that experience like for you?
Right, like so hard.
Yeah.
So hard. Because it was so unknown. Like nobody knew how long it was going to last for. I didn't know really what I was going to be able to do, how long I was going to be able to not do anything for. So, there are things I joined LinkedIn. I know that's a strange thing. Like I was like, oh, more social media, I love it. So I was like, okay, so how do I make connections? Old managers I played against, old teammates, again, directors of footballs, agents, etc. Like I was trying to make as many connections, trying to jump on as many Zoom calls with people as I possibly could.
Yeah.
Just to try and get an understanding of how they got to where they are, what the processes are like, and try and give myself an opportunity. Like if I needed to pick up the phone, and I've spent an hour with somebody on a Zoom call, for example, and then we get a good connection, then there's a chance that person might go, yeah, we've got this position available. I think you'd be great at it.
Fantastic.
So that's what I tried to do throughout COVID, really.
Yeah, fantastic that you may have fallen, but you kind of fell forward in that regard. You reached out, you connected, and you continue to learn.
Yeah, I think it's always that same thing, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. But I think you have to have a connection with people. People don't just give you an opportunity. They need to understand, and this is where I think football's a little bit different. If you're a manager, you're only one of one. If you're a football player, you're probably one of 25, right? You might have 4 strikers, so you're one of 4. So the niche gets lesser as you become the manager. So then it becomes about connections and how much you, like if I was going to go and be like an assistant manager, you need to have a manager that respects your view. They want to understand how you work, and then what your points and where your trajectory is as well. Because a lot of managers are quite scared of their assistant manager if they don't know them that well. Because there's always that case of like, if all of a sudden we lose 4 games on the bounce, is my assistant manager going to start stabbing me in the back because he wants to be the manager? And I feel like you have to have, as long as everybody knows their role, then I think, especially football managers will normally do quite well. And that's why they tend to take their managers with their team with them, right?
Yeah. It's that trust. And, we spoke about it earlier around the importance of decisions when you're the boss, when, it's on you. And, you sort of described there this, I guess, a role of a manager is a bit solitary perhaps. And certainly where there's a lot of pressure. And it's then important to trust your backroom team, to trust your assistants and get them there, which I guess leads us on nicely to sort of what you are up to nowadays with, moving on and now setting up your own thing. Just, I'm interested just to learn a little bit more about what that is.
Yeah, so very similar to F45. So still group training. So still have that same core ethic of working as a team. We do a lot of events. So we're massively into our High Rocks events, functional training events. So we love doing that. We just had some people compete at the weekend. I've also got a reformer Pilates studio.
Yeah.
As well, which,
good man.
don't get me wrong, I don't teach that.
I need to do more of that. I do.
Yeah. So I think we all do.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so again, right. So here's the different styles of management. One I actually coach in, so the gym side, and then the Pilates is run by somebody else. So you give guidance, you give KPIs for the month, for 6 months, quarterly, whatever. And then you have your meetings and you understand it. So two very different styles, all within under one brand.
And that, I'm curious then, because you made the decision to pivot from F45, but you didn't leave the industry. You sort of rebirthed into something else, something that's perhaps even more of your own, and in your own sort of cultural shape. Why not leave? Why not do something else?
I honestly, it was the people. Like, I spent 2.5 years making connections, making relationships with, helping people get to a really good, or help them feel great. And I didn't want to let them down. That was a genuine reason why I didn't just close the door, walk away, go into something else, go into a corporate 9 to 5. I wanted to continue helping people. And I still want to do that for thousands more people. But the relationships that I built over the 2.5 years as F45 with the people that we have that come through here every day, it just meant so much to me. Mm-hmm. To my detriment, by the way.
The people's man. That's it. That's what you have to remind everybody. Well,
yeah.
So, in that, so running a business, we were talking about that, the importance of decisions, I suppose. And, you're a manager of a different kind of team at the moment, and that's running forward. When you think about how you then set goals and how, you said you've got KPIs, how, I suppose what are the similarities you see in the way that you're setting goals in as a business as you think you would be doing, or at least you saw from football club owners?
Well, realistically, any football club owners, the only thing they really, really care about is winning on a Saturday, right? If you're a mid-table team, they don't care whether they finish 10th or 15th. As long as they stay in that division or might push for a playoff place, as long as they stay away from the relegation zone, I think most owners are quite happy.
Yeah.
So from my perspective as a business owner, we have to win 3 points every day, right? So we have to continuously be the best at what we do every single day. I speak to my head trainer every single day. We goal set every week, whether that's in terms of member incoming, whether that's making sure that our socials are great, whether that's gaining feedback from members. How can we? Is there an event that's coming up in 6 months' time that we can look at? We've planned our Christmas party and stuff already. Like all of these sort of things. Like, as a manager of a football club, you probably plan a month or 2 months in advance, right? It's all the stuff like travel, food, days off, training days, times of training, etc. And I feel like that's the kind of planning that I have to bring into to this business. Like what time I expect my trainers to come in before their sessions, how they're meant to look, what they're meant to dress in. All of these things, like I generally think, make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested then, I guess, a couple more questions, and I'll let you get back to running the gym. But when you think then where you want to go next, where do you want to take? Where do you want to take your career next? What do you see as that next, that highlight, the bit that you're really trying to achieve now?
Well, I want to open up, 2 or 3, 4 of these. I've been part of a franchise. I know there's good things about being part of a franchise, and I know there's bad things about being part of a franchise. So what I would like to do is, actually, I would like to rather open up a couple of these, but oversee how they're run and give information and guidance to anybody who's been or wants to open a gym or wants to manage people, because I feel like one thing I'm good at is being honest. And sometimes people don't like that honesty, but some people need to hear that honesty. And when you are honest with people, it's up to them how they take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think in terms of running a business, when I look at some owners or when I look at some managers, even having to deal with people day to day, I feel like there's a way that I do it that I genuinely believe resonates with the people that we have coming in. Mm-hmm. And I've been to multiple gyms before, and I've been to multiple businesses before when the owner's there and they couldn't care less whether you're walking in or not. Mm. And that to me never sits right. If you were the owner of a football club and you didn't know every player by name, or they didn't know you by name, I think that's so poor. Mm-hmm. Because the people that employ you should want to know, and they should want to get to know you.
That's right.
There's a big thing about like Eddie Howe. When he first went into Newcastle, he got every player to write down their names, their date of birth, their etc. And then he did it for their wives, girlfriends, kids, their whole names, date of births, birthdays, etc. So that he knew that on Tuesday, the 14th of January, it's Dan Burns' wife's 37th birthday. And he goes, I don't even know his wife's name, but how's Laura's birthday going? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and I think like, yeah. And that will make him feel great.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And that's what it's like for me. That's what it's all about, is having that relationship with your higher, whoever that person is, and understanding that we go back to the culture of it. And I think the culture that you create should be one that you wanted to be in yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I get you. I understand that. And it is, and I think, we've touched on culture and certainly gone around that point on, it sounds like that's one of the bits, you're quite passionate about as well, is establishing that and creating that right environment.
Yeah, because if you walk into the office every day with a smile, chances are you're going to have a good day.
That's it. At least it's going to start better.
And but if you don't necessarily have a good day, but the person next to you sees that you're smiling, it might be infectious to them.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's it. And I do like it when you see, good pictures of Klopp coming in when he was back at Liverpool and hugging everybody and things like that. And that was sort of a key part of that culture. And something that was really cool. So look, I guess the last question really is, lots of players, athletes who are watching this, listening to this, in their minds, contemplating what they're going to be doing in that life after sport and thinking about how they best prepare. I guess with this slant on perhaps, going into the fitness industry, what sort of guidance or advice would you give to them to best prepare for that life after the game?
You've got to start really early. Unfortunately, retirement starts at like 18. That plan starts at 18. No young footballer ever wants to hear that at all. And unfortunately, but that's where it starts. Yeah. We all want to be earning the tens of millions of pounds a year, but unfortunately, that's not always the case for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So I would say that throughout your career, try and learn as much as you possibly can. Try and make as many connections as you possibly can. And try and keep those connections throughout your career. That might even just be a message here and there, sounds very strange, but even at Christmas. Merry Christmas, hope you and the family are well. Yeah. That one message that might just help you out later on in life.
Yeah.
And if you can do that from the age of 18, then I think you get a good start at the retirement.
I really like that. Simon. Thank you. That extra bit about making the network, but then that effort to keep in touch with them, send them those notes, let them know you're thinking of them at those times as well. I think that's really powerful.
Well, put it this way, in a football career, like for me, 17-year career, probably played with, a couple of hundred people, right? Probably knew around about 1,000 people throughout my whole career. I've probably walked out of football with about 4 friends.
Wow.
Right, and that's that's just the way it works. Sometimes you don't always keep in contact with everybody. You don't always like everybody, but the reality of the whole situation is you play with so many, you get to meet so many, but you come out with so few. So if you can continue trying to build those relationships, continue to and keep those relationships throughout your career, then I think you stand a good chance at the end.
Simon, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. There are going to be people who are going to want to get in touch, perhaps come and have a session with you as well. What's the best place to find you, get in contact, follow your story?
Follow me on Instagram. So scoxy31. I'm on LinkedIn under Simon Cox. Just drop me a follow, get involved, and I'm always available for a chat.
Good man. Too easy. Well, look, I've just got to say, thank God. There we go. Too easy again.
That's too easy.
That's it. The Yorkshire Aussie man. Look, I just got to say thanks again for joining me for this conversation. I've certainly enjoyed it, and thanks very much.
Cheers, Ryan. Appreciate it.